Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin from Florals.com and today we're back with the Falling Back to Basics series and another process video. If you did not catch the last video in this series, it is where I share another go-to design which I call the grid design. Now there are so many different ways to do this design, and I will say this layout took a turn and did some weird things, but I still consider it a grid. It's definitely boxy and you'll see it in the end how it turns out. But I've pulled out two photos here. One photo is me holding an umbrella, and the other one is Sam and I. And this is when we went to the battlefield in Maryland. So these are some older photos. And when I did the other photos from this event, I definitely went down a different color scheme road. And I know a lot of people like to scrap sort of chronologically, or at least know what's next to each thing in their album because it makes it easier to coordinate the colors, but I don't really care if the pages are next to each other, coordinate or not, for the most part, because obviously I do a lot of one-page layouts. So even though the other layout that coordinates with this is natural tone, earth tones to go with the green grass and the brown and the rain, all of that. This one's pastels and brighter colors. So I think it's a fun contrast. These look like funner photos than the other ones that I did, so it makes a little bit more sense to go for this kind of color scheme. But as I work through this process, you'll see that I move things around a lot because I really struggled with this. This was towards the end of my kit. Didn't have a ton of 12 by 12 papers left. I had a few, but not a ton. So I really had to make it work. And again, this is a Lawn Fawn paper in the daffodil color. Love their papers. I picked this up at Paper Issues. If you guys have not tried shopping there yet, it's so much fun. They always have a discount code over in their Facebook group or over in their design team. You can check that out as well. So here I take this kite paper, which I really wanted to use. I liked the color scheme and how it matched the plaid in the background. And what I decided to do here is, since it fits well to have one photo in the top and one in the bottom, to kind of create that box look there, I just outlined it with my fingers, but still have these cube formats that kind of will hold the journaling and the title and such. I think it works really well. Now I do think it's a little busy to have the kites right next to the plaid, especially since the kite paper is now chopped up and, sort of free floating. It kind of flows into the background paper very easily. I decided to go through my colored cardstock, my 8.5 by 11s, and pull out one that matches. Now, this was the last sheet I had of this color. It's a beautiful peachy, I would say it's a peachy orange. It's definitely a little bit more on the orangey side than the pink side, but it worked beautifully, and I will say I had no idea I would pick such a color scheme for these photos. If you would have asked me what color scheme I'd pick for these photos when I first got them printed, I probably would have told you blue and green, brown, neutrals. Nothing too crazy. This is crazy and typically outside my comfort zone, but I think it still goes well with the photos. The photos do have a lot of neutrals in them, but it still works. So here you can kind of tell at this point that I am struggling. I've gone through the die cuts, I go through the doilies, I go through the 4x6 cards that I had pulled out. Now I move on to my chipboard and I find this camera from the Gather collection by Maggie Holmes. The colors go fairly well. It's got a teal that matches, it's got a pink that matches. We got a typewriter that has that same teal, so I pull that out. These are vintagey items, which again have absolutely nothing to do with the pictures other than they coordinate with the pattern paper I picked out. And just know that that's okay. Not every embellishment you put on a page has to coordinate. You could try to think of these as old-timey things, so that's like an older version of a camera, and of course typewriters aren't, around anymore. Very much. I guess I just bought one, so I guess they are around, but they're not as popularized anymore, so it kind of works well towards the era of these photos. This battlefield was olden times, olden devices, like a typewriter, I guess. You could think of it that way, but obviously a typewriter doesn't belong on a battlefield for the most part. But, you can think of it in different ways to make it work if you struggle with that perception that you need to embellish on theme or on point, with everything you're working on. So here's where I start going through my sticker book. I thought it'd give me more inspiration than it did. I struggled a lot with embellishing these pieces. The kites were very, very busy. There's a lot of color, so you can't put too much near it or too little near it, because then you'll cover up too many of the kites and then you don't know what the pattern paper is. There's just a lot going on. I pulled out this piece now. To be honest, I don't remember what it says. It might say Delight in Everyday Adventures, something like that, but it's got that mustardy yellow, but still brighter than a mustard yellow. and it has a pink and white checkered, which again helps the typewriter pop off the background because it now gives it to sit. I have this label that I pulled out that I end up putting back, which I do eventually use that label. I think I've pulled it out quite a few times now, and I promise I do eventually stick it down. And same with that tab. I do tend to pick up stickers and put them back, which I know is a little bit annoying, but I promise it's worth it in the end. Here I pull out one of my little Doodlebug doilies. These are the best doilies. If you guys have not gotten these for yourself yet and you like doilies, I couldn't recommend this smaller size enough. I think it comes in so handy for embellishment clusters especially. Here I was gesturing that I need something beneath the typewriter to really help that piece out. But since I'm waiting, I decided to start gluing everything down. And here is where I pull out my ATG gun and start gluing. I do end up putting the 8.5 by 11 cardstock here closer to the top than I did at the bottom, because at this point I really thought I might put a title at the bottom of this page. And I also switch around my order. I did do this intentionally. It wasn't by accident this time. I know sometimes I've switched things around that was on accident, but this time it was on purpose. And I just thought, since right now my title is that die cut up there, which just says "Love you with all my heart," I figured, actually I think it says "Love you with my whole heart," but since that's my title at this point, upper left's where I tend to go because you read left to right. Now, that doesn't mean anything, that's just a personal preference. Here I'm thinking, I actually think so much that I stopped the camera and started it again so I could pull some things out that I wanted to work with, because sometimes it takes me a while. So I ended up pulling out some resin flowers in some oranges and peaches. I ended up pulling out one random fancy pants sticker circle that's in a teal blue that matches the typewriter. Then I also pull out that journaling block, which is from We Are Memory Keepers and their typewriter line. So I'm going to start sticking these things down. So there's no mats under my photos, which I think is important to note, because most of the time I do have mats under my photos. This is a great way to not avoid that, but to intentionally not do that. I did have to scoot everything down just a tiny bit because I wanted to make sure that things were in place properly. You know how to equal borders around most of the edges at least. And the photo will be lined up on the right hand side with that block, and then this one the same way will be aligned with the left bottom photo. So it's an interesting style of grid because we do have the overlap. It's not straight up and down columns. We are working with rows this time instead of columns, but I think it's fun. I will say, I think I've done this type of layout before. Now I can't remember what it was for, but I remember doing something like this before, and I actually have already filmed the other grid layout already. So be sure to stay tuned for that on Thursday. And if you're watching this after Thursday, be sure to check out the playlist down below so you guys can check out all the videos in this series, because we did so many process videos this month and so many go-to designs videos, and November's full of more things that you guys are going to enjoy. I pulled out that puffy sticker that says Chasing Dreams, and I now consider that the title of this page. It's very small. I don't necessarily think you have to do large titles all the time, but again, at this point, I'm thinking I could still put a title at the bottom of this page. There's about 2.5, 3 inches there that I could work with. So I have room to grow and work. So I still could add one. Maybe I have a ton of journaling I want to put it there. I'm pretty sure I don't. Like I said, I do have other pages that go with this, so I'm not concerned about journaling at this point. That's why I think a lot of my layouts don't consider where journaling is going, because I either know I've already scrapbooked a layout that goes with it, same story, or I don't have any journaling at all, which is perfectly fine. And here I'm gluing down those items with my Scotch Quick Dry adhesive, my personal favorite liquid adhesive, although I'm always looking to try more. I think I want to try the Nuvo one pretty soon sometime, once I buy something off the internet and can add it in my cart. Here I'm adding some resin flowers. Again, there's one in the bottom right and then one in the top left. And as you guys can tell, there's only going to be 2 embellishment clusters on this. There's the one on the right and then one on the left. And I've been doing that a lot lately. I really don't think we need visual triangles all the time. You don't need an interest of 3 or 5 or any odd number. But those are great design principles to get you started. I think this grid designs lend themselves to have balance very easily. So here we have 4 quadrants. They're not equivalent because the photos are obviously larger, but we have 4 quadrants, 2 of which are embellished, 2 of which are photos that provide a lot of white space and for your eye to rest. And that's pretty much it. As long as the quadrants are around the same size to balance each other out, I think it really helps. And, you know, that's all you need sometimes, is just 2. But this layout is almost complete. I added that butterfly there, which I'm not totally in love with. Again, this is a very springtime color scheme, and I mean, here it was raining, so it was very, you know, spring-esque with its rains. But I don't think this layout's particularly on theme with the photos. But I did have fun making it, and I really don't mind, since you can convey the mood and the feel through your journaling and through so many other things. You don't have to always do layouts that sort of are customized to already well-known color schemes. For an example, like Christmas doesn't have to be red and green, guys. Just throwing it out there. We're coming up on Christmas soon. It doesn't have to be red and green. But I'm going to add a few more stickers. I just added a couple banners here and there to add pops of color. But I closed my sticker book, and that is it. No title, no large title, lots of open space at the bottom. This honestly could have been an 8.5 by 11 layout if I really wanted, but alas it is not. But here are the close-ups, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you're interested in getting notifications for every time I upload. But thank you guys for joining me for another episode of the Falling Back to Basics series. The close-ups are a little bit dark, so I apologize for that. I film these at night now, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!